Hey folks, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're buckled in because tonight we're plunging straight into what I can only call an absolute beast of a winter storm that's ready to pummel a huge swath of the country. This is one of those setups where you glance at the forecast maps and your jaw just drops. The sheer scale is almost unbelievable. We're talking serious trouble from the southern plains clear up to the northeast. And honestly, some of these projected totals are pushing historic levels for certain spots. Now here's where things get tricky. The million-dollar question hovering over southern Oklahoma tomorrow morning is this: are we waking up to a ton of heavy sleet or a nasty dose of freezing rain? That distinction is going to be absolutely critical in how this whole thing unfolds. And truthfully, it's one of those situations where we just have to watch it play out live. This storm is basically split into two phases. The first wave is somewhat separated from the second one, and you can really pick up on that as the system rolls through. By tomorrow afternoon, we've got thick bands of sleet and snow overrunning Arkansas and pushing into Missouri. Western Tennessee is staring down a wintry cocktail of snow and sleet. But then there's this ongoing ice storm, and a potentially catastrophic ice storm, stretching from northern Louisiana through Mississippi's Delta region. By the way, if you want specific forecasts for your neck of the woods or your city, drop them in the comments below. I'll do my best to answer them one by one as time permits. Also, if you dig the video and hit that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate it. Now, let's keep rolling. Here's where it gets really fascinating. When that second wave fills in and we push towards Sunday morning, if the models are on target, this thing morphs into one massive sleet fest stretching from Midland and Odessa right through Abilene, all the way to Dallas-Fort Worth and into Little Rock. Even Shreveport stays predominantly sleet, according to some of this guidance. I've hammered this point several times now, and I'll hammer it again. There are going to be places that brace for a catastrophic ice storm, but might actually dodge the worst of it, thanks to sleet instead. The models are really latching on to this scenario, and that would be a game changer for the power grid, infrastructure, and travel conditions. Let me run through the numbers state by state since I know that's what you're really here for. Kansas is looking at some serious snow. Wichita could see 6 to 10 inches. Kansas City has actually dialed back their totals a touch to around 5 to 7 inches. The entire state is getting buried in accumulating snow right now with single-digit temps. No freezing rain, headaches here, just straight-up snow. Oklahoma is a whole different animal. Oklahoma City is targeting 9 to 14 inches of snow. Tulsa's eyeing 10 to 15 inches. Down toward Ardmore, we're talking 3 to 8 inches, and some of that snow total is actually going to be sleet. Southern Oklahoma is definitely going to see sleet mixed in. No question about it. The freezing rain doesn't really enter the picture until you hit the southern half of the state, where Broken Bow could sneak up to about a quarter inch. Texas being the enormous state it is, let me break this down region by region. The Panhandle, including Amarillo, is looking at 5 to 7 inches of snow, with maybe a touch of freezing rain, but nothing major. As you drift further south toward Lubbock and surrounding areas, several inches of snow are on tap, but the ice totals start climbing. Southwest Texas is eyeing a few inches of snow and sleet combined with significant freezing rain, -2 to 4/10 of an inch in spots, and that's veering into serious ice storm territory. The Abilene area is looking at 1 to 2 inches of snow and sleet with lighter amounts overall. But the freezing rain potential in this corridor could unleash an odd-out ice storm south. Central Texas has winter storm warnings dipping pretty far south, though the warning criteria isn't as stringent down there. They could see a dusting of sleet and snow with some freezing rain mixed in. Houston, you've got winter weather alerts posted. Madisonville is forecasting 3/10 of an inch of freezing rain. Crockett is closer to 4/10. Houston itself might only see a few hundredths of an inch of freezing rain, but that's absolutely enough to lay down a solid glaze. You don't have to venture very far north before you're diving into ice storm territory. Dallas-Fort Worth is looking at a couple inches of snow and sleet. And honestly, if Dallas gets 2 inches of anything frozen, it's probably going to be sleet. The freezing rain situation there is ice storm caliber with anywhere from 1/4 to a 1/2 inch expected. Once you push into the northeastern sections of Texas, that's where you can surpass 1/2 inch of freezing rain. This entire region is going to be an absolute war zone. Now let me talk about Louisiana, because this is where things get really ugly. The Texarkana and Shreveport area is going to see some of the heaviest precipitation, and it's all going to be frozen. Both cities are looking at 1 to 2 inches of snow or sleet. But the freezing rain is what's going to wreck this region. Shreveport is forecasting 1/2 inch. Monroe is looking at 3/4 of an inch of freezing rain. When you hit 3/4 of an inch of ice, you're running a serious risk of absolutely devastating the power grid with all the downed trees and snapped power lines. This area needs to prepare because the cold air following this system is going to be brutal. If you lose power, it's going to be a legitimately bad situation. Mississippi is facing some truly wicked numbers. Jackson wasn't actually forecasting any freezing rain earlier, but they've now bumped it up to 3/10 of an inch. That tells me the cold air boundary has sagged further south than initially expected. But here's the thing about Jackson. You're just south of a nightmare scenario. From Jackson up to Philadelphia to Columbus, Mississippi, there's going to be an incredibly tight gradient. Any eastward shift of that cold air boundary could take you from a cold rain to a massive freezing rain event in an instant. The numbers further north in Mississippi are honestly hard to wrap your head around. Greenwood is looking at an inch of freezing rain. Yazoo City isn't much better. Vicksburg is forecasting 8/10 of an inch. Tunica is going for 1.25 inches of freezing rain. This is an extreme ice storm situation, and I cannot emphasize enough how serious this is going to be. Arkansas is another major winter weather state that's been absolutely crushed over the last several winters. Northern sections of the state are looking at mainly snow and sleet, anywhere from 1/2 foot to a foot. Little Rock could see 1 to 4 inches of snow and sleet with a potential burst of snow tomorrow morning. The freezing rain is where things get really nasty though. Northern Arkansas isn't expecting much, and Little Rock actually isn't forecasting a lot of freezing rain either. But once you get into southern and eastern Arkansas, that's where you can see 1/4 to 1/2 inch accumulations. Far southeastern areas could push up to 3/4 of an inch. Western Tennessee is looking at 1 to 3 inches of snow and sleet. Memphis could get a solid front end, thumping in the northwest part of the state. Dyersburg wouldn't surprise me at all if they picked up 1/2 foot of snow and sleet. The freezing rain situation is brutal here too, with areas like Parsons looking at 3/4 of an inch. This is going to be a mess across western and west central Tennessee. Missouri is all snow with no freezing rain expected. Maybe some sleet in southern areas. St. Louis is looking at 7 to 11 inches. Columbia, 5 to 9. Jefferson City, 6 to 10. Springfield, 9 to 13. Where Paducah, Missouri, and Illinois come together. We're looking at similar numbers with Mount Vernon at 8 to 11 inches and Evansville. 8 to 12. Illinois is looking at 2 to 5 inches in Peoria and Chicago. But you really have to get into the southern areas of the state before you start seeing consistent 1/2 foot totals. Now here's where the meteorology gets really interesting, and this is the nerdy stuff I love. Sunday morning, we're going to see a classic cold air damming event. You might wonder why it's raining in Nashville and Knoxville while freezing rain is falling in Atlanta, Greenville, Spartanburg, and Charlotte. That's because cold air gets trapped east of the mountains and anchors in place while low pressure pushes warm air aloft. The surface stays cold east of the mountains while the Tennessee Valley warms up. There's actually a chance Nashville switches to rain before flipping back to winter weather. Northern Georgia and the Atlanta area are now going for 0.3 of an inch of freezing rain. That's why confidence got high enough to issue ice storm warnings. Gainesville is looking at 0.4 or more. Jasper could see over 0.5 inch. Northeast Georgia is going to get absolutely hammered with freezing rain. And I think below freezing temperatures will hold for the entire event in extreme Northeast Georgia. Columbia, South Carolina is forecasting 0.3 of an inch of freezing rain. Anything over 1/4 inch starts causing issues. Once you hit 0.5 inch, you start seeing widespread power outages. Lancaster is looking at over 0.5 inch. Newberry and Winnsboro are getting into major ice storm territory. The upstate of South Carolina and southwest North Carolina are facing a major to potentially extreme ice storm. The Greenville-Spartanburg area is going to be a war zone with 0.5 inch to 0.75 of an inch of freezing rain forecast. Charlotte is in the same boat at the beginning of the system. Thank you guys. See you next video.